Hello, welcome to Zatu Games. Today I'm going to be reviewing Unlocking Insanity from Peterson Games. Let's get crazy, because insanity, it links. So here is all the components from Unlocking Insanity. Dice vermis mysterious, which means in its language, dice are fun. I'm going to go through, unusually, although I'm doing the review, I'm going to talk about negatives straight away, and that is, this is the box, this is the insert. So this insert holds everything bar the score pad. So you can see there's a bit of a thing there, and if we put the score pad in, we can see that takes up most of the box. It is quite a big score pad, but everything else would fit in a deck box, including the pencils. So the box is probably slightly oversized. In this game, you're going to be rolling dice and trying to avoid insanity. The way you will do this is on a player's turn, they will choose two of the coloured dice here and roll them. Now, these colours match parts of the brain. Now, the colours aren't always the clearest on the pad, but you can match the shapes around these scores as well. So you know, particularly with the darker insane dice in here, you know that you've got the right dice for the right part of the brain. You have your results that you're going to write from the light dice on the outside of the brain, and if you hit this target with all of the sections filled in, you will score double points. When you get negative points, they're written inside the brain on the matching shape and colour, although again, this is where the colour matching is a little bit close. I really feel like purple should not be in the game at all. Far too close to blue, and oddly the green is not great with the black dice either, but like I say, because they've done the shapes for the different colours, it doesn't really matter. It might just take you an extra second. So the way that works is the player whose turn it is will take two dice of their choice and roll them. I've got 6 in blue and a 4 in purple, or squares and circles, and I'll take one of those results and write them on here. Now in this case I want to get 18 for the blue and 24 for the purple. However, the dice are not normal dice, as you may have guessed. 4 is the lowest they roll, and they have 1 4 on, and then they have 2 6s, 2 8s and 1 10. So 12 is probably the best, so I would jot my 4 in here. Rather than getting, I'd want lower ones, I'd want to put 4s in with the 18 to get the double. Then you will draw from the insanity bag a random dice and roll that. Every player must write down one of these dice, by the way. That's what I neglected to say, that's why I only chose one, but every player will write down one of those, not necessarily the same one. So this is the yellow insanity dice, and you might be able to see why there is problems here with the colours, because that's yellow. Just get them all out so you can see. That's green. That's actually the purple and the red, which are a bit similar. They're just so dark that they kind of take away, and when you're playing in not optimal light conditions, it can be hard to see, particularly with these, because they don't have the colour fill in the background. And then you'll roll one of the negative dice. Now this is -2 all the way up to -8 on this one. So you'll roll this, and everyone must write this result down in their relevant section of the brain. Then you'll move on, leaving this die out until there's only 1 in the insanity bag. If at the start of your turn your insane total is more than your sane total, you will go insane, which means potentially 2 things. First, if you're the first to insanity in that colour, you take the first to insanity card and you immediately roll any negative dice which affects other players. So you can immediately give other players a bad result to handle. And then once per game, you can treat a positive dice result as its max value. So you can treat a dice as a 10 and then discard this card from the game. So going insane is not necessarily bad. In fact, a lot of the insane powers that you will get until you reverse your sanity are not that bad. Red lets you subtract 2 from each negative dice result you use. So red should stop you going insane in other colours. Purple, you may not use a positive dice result showing its max value. Well, again, as you get later on, you don't tend to want the higher numbers. As the active player, the second positive dice to roll on your turn is chosen by the player to your right, so you don't get choice anymore. That one's potentially a little bit worse. As the active player, re-roll any 10s on your positive dice and add any negative 2s on your negative dice and any negative 2s. So that makes you re-roll stuff. And then subtract 2 from each positive dice result you use. And again, not necessarily bad. Now, you will check that at the start of every turn. So at the start of every turn, you're going to be checking to see whether you've recovered insanity or still insane. So say I went insane in red, and then I got a massive number in the red, I became insane again, that would be removed. The game ends when everyone has filled in all of their boxes around the outside of the brain. Sometimes you'll fill in these, but very, very rarely. Then you take the positive total and negative total for each section, remembering to apply the double if you got it. You must get the number exactly, not more than it, not less, exactly. And give yourself a total score. The person with the highest score is the winner. These sheets are not just normal paper, they're kind of glossy, they're quite nice. The cards are nothing particularly special, sharp-edged, but they don't get shuffled. You just have a pile of red, a pile of purple, a pile of yellow. The dice are nice, apart from the colour issues. And yeah, I really like the production on the things that matter. It's nice to get a lovely little bag as well. And everything fits, like I say, in the insert, apart from the bag, which will need to go underneath or lay on top once you've used a few. And of course, the box is far too big, really, for the game. But that's a small negative. That's how you play Unlocking Insanity. So, Unlocking Insanity is yet another roll and write. However, there are some nice elements that I haven't really seen in other roll and writes. The negative things I've already kind of talked about in the overview. The dice production of the colours isn't great. Thankfully they've got those shapes on again, but on the Insanity dice in particular, that can still be really difficult to read, and it kind of stops people fully grasping that the shapes and colours are unique. So each shape is linked to a colour. And when I've been teaching, that has come up every single time. So that is an issue. The box being too big, but I'm not going to knock it for that because loads of games do that, and at least you've got fairly big score pads. The way the game works itself is kind of unique for a roll and write, I think. Trying to balance your negative versus your positive. And in fact, actually, the first game I played, we all just assumed going insane would be really, really bad for us. So we just avoided it, and we managed to play the whole game avoiding it. However, when you actually read some of the powers, you're like, well, that could be really handy, particularly in the later stage of the game. Taking 2 off your positive dice is massive if you've had to put in some high numbers onto your double targets. To be able to put a 2 in is a lifesaver. So actually, going insane isn't actually all that bad, apart from obviously it means that you're going to have some negative points at the end. So it's that balance between, actually I want to go insane to get the powers, to get my double points, because that's the biggest scoring opportunity, versus, but at some point I'd like to slam a load of points in there so I'm not insane anymore, because remember, you check at the start of every turn so you can return to sanity. So it's a really interesting roll and write. It's definitely feels like a different roll and write for me. The game plays through mechanically well. The elements all work, the checking for insanity, choosing 2 dice, and again there's a clever thing there which brings perhaps more interaction with other players than other roll and writes do. Roll and writes are often quite solitary, but actually choosing the colours, you can choose a colour you've already filled up, so you have to take the 2nd dice, or you can choose 2 colours that someone else has already filled up, so they have to start crossing off things that they can't, because they can't fill them in. And that's really quite cool. Added with the insanity power for being first to go insane in a colour, that gives you an interaction with the other players where you can give them a negative dice in a colour that they particularly don't want. It has more interaction than is usual. Another roll and write I played recently, which I love, is Trois dice or Troy's dice. But that has no interaction. Literally, the solo game for that is exactly the same. On Tour is another one. But Unlocking Insanity does have that interaction. So if you're looking for a roll and write where you can mess with your opponents a little bit, where you have to balance maths, essentially, it is a mathematical game when it comes down to it, that's enough to drive me insane. Then this could be a good shout for you. It ties loosely into the Cthulhu theme of going insane and all that, and occultist, but really it's I mean, the theme's there as much as any other roll and write, really. You're doing random things based on some dice throws. So yeah, short-term to mid-term replayability is good. For me, it's not one that I'm gonna play and then go, let's play again straight away. Let's play again, let's play again. It didn't have that kind of roll and write addiction there, like some Trois dice for me. I played it again and again and again, but I could solo that one. Metro I played again and again and again. But it is one that I would pull out when with certain groups of players where they don't want to just sit and do their own drawings. They want to interact with everyone. I think long-term, medium to long-term replayability, essentially once you've grokked the values of the dice, you're going to kind of know what strategy you want to employ. That will be changed a little bit by the other players, but long term there's not going to be anything that will particularly keep you coming back and back and back and back, unless it's a game that you're just throwing in between others. But again, that is something that I would say about most roll and writes, apart from something heavier like Cartographers, I think is a roll and write that has a lot of variety due to all the cards added. But for one with this amount of content in terms of components, the variety is quite good. It's a lot of fun, balancing the various dice off against each other, taking a risk, hoping that someone else doesn't choose the 2 colours that you don't want them to. And the rules are fine, perhaps a little bit more overdone, would be my only complaint, but again, a very little bit. So all my negatives on this game, apart from the dice issue, I think that is major in a roll and write, are quite small nitpicks. This is certainly a good to great game. Not great to amazing, but in that kind of good to great, you will get a lot of fun out of this if you can get it for a good price and you want some interaction in a roll and write, then this is one that's been overlooked but could be a good pickup for you. Thanks very much for watching another Zatu review. We are on Twitch at Zatu Games, also on other social medias, and do remember to like this video, hit subscribe, and tag the bell to get notifications whenever our videos go live. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you soon.